and gentlemen, we are just a few days away from the NFL draft, and I don't think I've ever been more excited for an NFL draft than this one, because after the number 3 pick, well, in reality, after the number 2 pick in this year's NFL draft, things could start getting extremely crazy, especially when you have a team that literally was in the Super Bowl the year before last year, trading into the top 3 to potentially take their next franchise cornerstone QB. And well, ever since the 49ers have made the trade with the Miami Dolphins to move up to the number 3 spot, there has been a ton of speculation. Early reports suggest that the reason why they did this was so they could potentially take Mac Jones. But as time progressed forward, we began to think that, hey, this is just going to be a gigantic smokescreen and we should ignore it. As Kyle Shanahan went to one pro day, the entire media blew it out of proportion and said that is who the 49ers are supposed to take. And well, we finally got a credible source that gave us a bit of insight on the lucky individual that the 49ers are supposed to take in the NFL draft this week. It's between 2 players, and we're going to break that down for you guys in a second because I don't think it's as clear as you guys may think. Before we get to the content, just do me a favor. Guys, I am doing my absolute best to get unbanned on Twitch. I don't know if you guys understand how Twitch bans work, but they are really quick to give them out and it's very hard to get them back. So I'm going to leave a link to a tweet in the description down below. If you just go ahead and like the tweet or retweet it or comment on it just to show Twitch that you want me to come back, I'd really appreciate that. And in addition to that, if you could leave a like on this video for the YouTube algorithm, that'd be appreciated as well. Now that we got all that out of the way, break! Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? When the San Francisco 49ers traded into the top 3 of this year's NFL draft, well, there was a report going around that they did so they could take Alabama's Mac Jones. And initially, that report didn't make much sense at all, because if you think about it, Mac Jones, there was a pretty good chance that he would have been around at the original position that the 49ers were supposed to select. As a matter of fact, if they really wanted Mac Jones, I believe they would have made a draft day trade to select him, kind of like what the Chiefs did with Patrick Mahomes and the Houston Texans did with Deshaun Watson during the 2017 NFL draft. Really quickly, do me a favor and tell me if you're a 49ers fan who you're hoping that the San Francisco 49ers select with the number 3 overall pick, because it's all over the place. I personally think that the leading candidate is Justin Fields, because if this was any other NFL draft, Justin Fields would be the number 1 overall pick if you didn't have a transcendent talent like Trevor Lawrence, and if you didn't have a player that reminded scouts of Patrick Mahomes and Zach Wilson. I'm not too worried about Justin Fields' ability to process defenses, because if you look at his scouting report, it looks almost identical to Deshaun Watson's scouting report, and he turned out just fine, except for, you know, the recent off the field stuff that's going on about him. But if you want me to give you a lowdown about the 49ers potential options, I'm going to give it to you right here. You have Justin Fields, who has a remarkably high ceiling, but a dangerously low floor. If Justin Fields is to bust, then he's going to bust hard. There's questions about his ability to process defenses, which I personally don't buy into. They claim that he needs to get better at working through his progressions and that he freezes up whenever he faces off against a blitz. Meanwhile, you have Mac Jones, who pretty much is inverse Justin Fields. His ceiling is extremely low, but his floor seems to be fairly high. My issue with Mac Jones personally, and I've said this in my dedicated video on him, is the fact that as good as he has been, he was surrounded by remarkable talent throughout his career at Alabama. I also didn't see him make a lot of NFL caliber throws. But despite that, he has the ability to work through his progressions quickly. He is extremely accurate and he doesn't get rattled in the pocket. As a matter of fact, he faces blitzes in a very poised manner and typically makes the right decision. But how much of that decision is as a result of being in Alabama's offense? Finally, you have Trey Lance, who might be the biggest boomer bust player in this entire NFL draft. There's no question in my mind that there is a chance that Trey Lance could be the best player in this NFL draft or the absolute worst player in this NFL draft. As a matter of fact, the best comparison I could give for Trey Lance is none other than Josh Allen, but when Josh Allen was coming out of Wyoming, whereas I typically compare Trevor Lawrence to how Josh Allen was a year ago, a more developed Josh Allen. Trey Lance possesses all of the attributes that you would ever want in a NFL quarterback. He has the size, he has the arm, and he's extremely athletic. The problem is there are questions with his accuracy and a little bit with his mechanics. And there's no question in anyone's mind that whoever ends up drafting Trey Lance is going to have him sit down for a year and really work on his game a little bit. But that's okay because Patrick Mahomes had to do the exact same thing. And typically Kyle Shanahan's offense does take some time to actually get used to, so whoever does get drafted at the number 3 spot would ideally sit for a year and really understand the nuances of Shanahan's offense. Now that I gave you a little bit of a background between the three, I want to give you some information from an individual that I really respect. My favorite source when I make these videos, guys, is Ian Rappaport. And when Ian Rappaport says something, I really take it seriously. But the thing is, there is a discrepancy to some of NFL media, and we're going to get to that. You see, Rappaport comes out and tweeted last night that as the 49ers close in on their decision of which quarterback to take at number 3, sources say that they are down to 2 prospects. And the belief is that those 2 are Alabama's quarterback Mac Jones and North Dakota State University's quarterback Trey Lance. Several sources say the focus does appear to have shifted to those 2. Now, if you want a deeper scouting report on those 2 players, I'm going to leave it at the end screen for you guys so you can check it out. But here's the thing. Ian Rappaport has said this himself. There are times that his sources get him information that the team wants him to go out and leak out. Imagine if John Lynch, the GM of the 49ers, went to multiple sources and said, hey, we are thinking of taking either Mac Jones or Trey Lance, just so they could cause a little bit of chaos later on in the NFL draft. And my assumption as to why they are doing this is one of 2 things. Either they really like either Mac Jones or Trey Lance, or they don't want to potentially persuade the New York Jets to look a little bit deeper into Justin Fields. So what I'm trying to say is, as much as I trust Ian Rappaport and as much as I don't doubt that his sources actually went up to him and said to him, hey Ian, the 49ers are either going to take Mac Jones or Trey Lance, I don't know how much I'm believing in the 49ers' intentions here. Bear in mind, the San Francisco 49ers could have potentially snagged Mac Jones or Trey Lance for significantly cheaper if they just stayed at their position. And I imagine that, especially now after how things played out with the Carolina Panthers trading for Sam Darnold, the Detroit Lions moving on from Matthew Stafford for Jared Goff, the only threat to really select a quarterback in the top 10, or I guess the top 12, would be the Denver Broncos at number 9. And even then, if they're between Mac Jones or Trey Lance, I'm pretty sure at that point, one of those QBs would fall down to them. So the reason why I'm a little skeptical here is why on earth would John Lynch give up 3 first-round picks to move up to the number 3 overall pick just to select a quarterback that he could have potentially received at the bottom part of the top 10. He could have traded up to number 8 and probably only gave up a 2nd-round pick or a future 3rd-round pick to move up. It seems a little bit reckless, and if you ask me, I don't think it's what the 49ers are actually trying to do here. We've been hearing that the 49ers are interested in Trey Lance, but I'm sorry, I just don't buy it. But let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think? Who do you think will go to the 49ers at number 3? Do you think that they should select one QB in particular, and if so, why? All 3 of them are presumptive fits in the Shanahan offense, so I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.